the Chapel of Frustrated Actions and Futile Gestures is something that I was thinking about way back in 2002 into 2003. And I just became fascinated for just some unknown reason about all the things that people do that they have to do again. So, you know, you wake up in the morning, you get on the train, you go into work, you're at work, and then you have a break in the middle of the day, and then you go back to work, and then you might meet a friend, you know, on your way home, and then you go back to your house or your family or whatever, and then, you know, you might watch some TV, and then you get ready for bed, and then you go to sleep, and then guess what? You wake up the next day and you do it all over again. So all of these kinds of repetitive actions that are also connected with the Industrial Revolution, all of those things are just things that we do really without thinking eventually. I mean, the whole background of it comes from the myth of Sisyphus, you know, of course, who was the one who angered the Greek gods. And so as punishment, they made him roll a huge stone, big rock actually, all the way up the hill to the very top. And when he gets up to the hill and he stops to take a little break, guess what? The boulder runs all the way down again, all the way down the hill. And then he has to go back and get it and bring it back up again. I was just really fascinated with that idea of why do we do that and how can we do that? And so it just became, for me, a kind of metaphor for who we are and what our capabilities are, and to not lose sight of the fact that some of the things we do are not that important, but they exist. You know, they're going to be there, always in the background.
But it also makes us feel more connected with the things that we feel that we don't want to be doing. You know, in the other states, yes, where there's plenty of time for reflection, you know, but in this state, it's kind of like, okay, I recognize something of this in myself, and I don't want to do this anymore. It's kind of a wake-up call in a way.
But it's a mirror. You know, all of this is a kind of mirror of ourselves. I mean, that's why we make art. That's why we do all of these things. We're actually looking at the world and we're taking some things from it and trying to understand it and know what it is. And we're constantly moving in further to try to feel what this world is all about, what our lives are about. You know, some people think their lives are meaningless. I mean, that's horrible, you know? But that's sort of what happens in certain periods in history. There's a kind of a bottleneck and everything just kind of starts slowing down and getting kind of calcified until some great philosopher or some great artist or somebody just knocks on the door hard enough to just break through a little bit and kind of loosen things up again.
The last piece at the end of the series is man searching for immortality, woman searching for eternity. And there's two naked people who are, and this is extremely slowed down, actually. It's quite the opposite for the other pieces, and I think that these people are older, they're moving towards death, and when we projected onto a granite surface, that changed everything for me. It meant that, you know, they come towards you at the beginning of this piece from the stone, and then they depart into the stone as well. And that one totally has a different feeling about it, where even though the action is completely repetitive, just like the other pieces, there is now a sense of mortality, and that everybody tries to slow down when they're moving towards their death. You know, we always feel that stone is the thing that is going to last the longest. You know, our medium of video is like poof, you know, it's ephemeral. You know, exactly. You can turn these things off and they're gone. Yeah. If it was a stone sculpture, we would see it for a long time. But in terms of the idea of mortality, I think that a good part of the show is also self-referential, or this seeking of the inner self. And I think that Angel at the Door is a piece that does that more than the others in this exhibition. And it's a repetitive action. It seems like it's a very domestic kind of bland scene. It's clearly on a set. you know, and so it's another kind of one of these slightly absurdist, you know, scenes, which is what the frustrated actions piece is kind of more like, you know. But it builds, and you know, Bill's idea was for the struggle to be evident of someone trying, you know, for the inner self to come through, or to have that time, that moment of self-realization.
For me, the Mirage series was really about the struggle between reality and illusion. Because when you go out onto those salt flats, which are basically that's the remains of the water that was frozen in the ice caps, you know, eons ago, and had been gradually, the was warming at that time and sort of gradually thawed out. And that's, you know, that's what created all those places. But there are these extraordinary places. And then so when you get on these completely flat spaces and you go all the way out there, as Kira described, you know, you watch a person, we just stand there and we'd watch our performers walk away together, or in some cases we actually had to get little, you know, we had to put them on a truck.
Well, we drove them out.
Yeah, we drove them all the way out because the
yeah.
distances were enormous. You know, a mile and a half, in very, very hot conditions. And then you leave them there and you just watch them. And at first what you see is something, it looks just like this. It's shimmering, it's illusory. You can't even see it as a person, human being. It's shuffling around like this. And then finally you begin to see, is that a person? And then you feel it coming, and you literally watch a human being go from some blob that's going like this to who we are. You know, and you can see where what's called the event horizon is. You see where that line is when they step through that. All of a sudden their body looks like our bodies, and then they continue walking towards the camera. So that's a really amazing thing, you know. And of course that's why people lose their way in mirages, because they think actually that's real, or they think there's water there. You know, it's a very, very mysterious thing, and that really grabbed my eye when we first went out in those kind of places.
This piece, The Dreamers, was actually conceived in 2004 when we were doing Tristan and Isolde. There was one shot where we used a tank of water, like plexiglass tank that you could shoot from all sides and underneath. And at that time, Bill thought, oh, I'm going to do a series of water portraits at some point.
They are partly dead and partly alive. They are partly old and partly young. They are all the things in the middle that we are capable of, you know, inhabiting. So I think that's a very kind of important aspect of this space, you know, that these people are, you know, not only just fluid, but they're absorbing what's in front of them. You know, the water is part of their bodies, it's circulating. And that's real, that is real. There is so much information flowing between people right now that we're not a part of. The guy who's talking to you right now is not a part of. And so there's all this deep, deep, deep information floating around down in the basement. You know, there's just kind of monitoring things, so to know that we're okay.